Welcome back to the NBA Today free agency special, and we are now joined by our NBA reporter who covers the Lakers, Dave McMenamin. And it's been a while. It's been a while since we've talked about Kevin Durant in this show. But before we get to him, I'm trying to decipher. Kyrie Irving just tweeted a GIF. Is it GIF or GIF? What did we decide? It's GIF. Of a bird flying out of a cage. This is the level that we are at right now. So let's just set that aside for one hot second. And Dave, what progress has actually been made toward a marriage between Kyrie and the Lakers?
Checking in with Lakers sources, they believe that the domino that needs to fall first in Brooklyn is finding a trade partner for Kevin Durant.
Sure.
And until that occurs, the Kyrie Irving conversations will kind of be put on the back burner. Now, when Stephen A. puts stuff out there like, Kyrie's doing everything he can to end up in L.A., that serves two purposes. It can suppress the market for other teams that are out there in terms of what they would be willing to offer, because no one wants to have a malcontent join their operation, to certainly not give up assets that have any sort of value in order to get him on a rental, especially a rental in a situation where he doesn't want to be there. And so that can actually help the Lakers' pursuit of Kyrie in the meantime, because it makes their offer look better. Now, what can the Lakers offer? We know it's Russell Westbrook. It's the 2027 first-round pick, potentially the 2029 first-round pick. The other piece they have available is Talen Horton-Tucker. And obviously, Talen didn't have a great year last year, a lot of injuries, but he's a young, talented guard who can get into the lane, has some length defensively. And if you are a Brooklyn team going into a rebuild, that can have some value there, and perhaps it could lead to a bigger type of deal where the Lakers not only get a guy like Kyrie Irving, but what about Joe Harris? Lakers need some shooters, right? And Joe Harris has his own injury.
That would change the game.
Yeah, has his own injury problems right now, but when healthy, this guy hit some shots.
What do you think of that, Rich?
No, I like it. We know what the Lakers need, and what they didn't have LeBron James's first year, and what they didn't, and then they won it in 2020. Their first year, they didn't have shooting. They had a ton of talent, a bunch of young players, but they didn't have shooting. Next year, they get Anthony Davis. They add some shooting. They add some pieces. Guys develop, like Alex Caruso came out of nowhere, Kyle Kuzma. So they needed those athletic wings. That's what they've brought in. They've brought in some kind of utility guys. And now, if you can add in a guy that can actually shoot, and it's not even just the ability to knock down a shot, it's just the fear of it. Yep. They need the fear of it, and that's what they were missing last year with Russell Westbrook. And in that pick and roll with AD, they're like, hey, we're going to stay close to AD, blah, blah, blah. And even AD struggled to shoot. So adding any threat of shooting on that team, I think, goes a long way.
Plus, Darvin runs a 4-out system. You can't run a 4-out system unless you have shooters. It just won't work.
Yeah, and we saw that in Milwaukee.
Surrounding LeBron with shooters. Has any team thought of this yet in LeBron's career? Look, the KD angle is big because if whatever Brooklyn does with Durant involves DeAndre Ayton getting signed and traded to them, or any player getting signed and traded to them, they need to cut a lot of money to get under the hard cap, which you're not allowed to go over if you get a guy in a sign and trade. And part of that will be turning Kyrie Irving's salary slot into something much less than $36 million or whatever his option number is. Obviously, Russ makes more than $36 million, so that becomes problematic too. So everything is kind of lumped together. And look, we just seem to be going towards this Russ and 1 or 2 first-round picks for Kyrie, because I just don't think there's anything else out there for Kyrie, unless the nuclear option is if the Nets get really desperate and need to cut money to fit something under a hard cap, would they ever buy him out? And if they bought him out, he gets to then choose wherever he wants to go.
I don't know if he's going. And first of all, shout out to our guy Big Perk. They shout out to my guy Big Perk. No, I'm just he
asked the buyout question.
He asked the buyout question. I didn't know there was some chalk. There was some chalk on his knuckles. My point
we'll get you some lotion.
My point is that we know that they do not want, ideally, Kyrie to be in that locker room on opening night. So that means, and I'm just saying, like, well, just come here and play in the Nets locker room. I think that just the energy, I think for both sides, I think everyone's looking for what they're going to do. So if you're looking at that, it's like, we don't want them there. How can we allow for us to either get a piece or else to move out? The bird is out of the cage. Is that what it is? The bird is out of the cage?
I can't play this.
I can't. I'm not where I don't
even know. I don't even know if it's GIF.
What does that mean, Bert? What does that mean?
I don't know.
Like it's got some countries.
Y'all not tired of trying to figure out Kyrie or even understand Kyrie? here's the thing. If I'm the Nets, I don't even do Kyrie Irving a favor. Like, I trade Kyrie Irving wherever the hell I want to trade him. Who's ever going to give me the best piece back that's going to benefit us? I feel like the Brooklyn Nets, they could work hand in hand with Kevin Durant. They don't have to do that with Kyrie. Kyrie didn't do nothing that they wanted him to do. He disrespected them. Why should they do him any favors?
But making a move out of spite won't help them in the long term, especially if they are trying to deal with a team again in the future.
Yeah, but Dave, this is what I'm starting to realize. I'm looking at the overall picture, and owners are getting tired. Okay, we looked at the Ben Simmons situation last year. We saw the Philadelphia 76ers and the ownership group. They stood firm, and they stood on what they believed in. We watched this. We're watching this happen right now. Never in our wildest dreams. The ownership group and Sean Marks, they're not begging KD to stay. Mm-hmm. That's crazy, right? We're talking about arguably the best player in the league. And they said, oh, we're going to just grant you your wish. What goes to tell me is that the owners around the league are talking, and they're about to start making a stance because guess what else is coming up? The CBA. But we saw this coming way long time ago, and owners are starting to get tired of players that are getting paid top dollars, and all of a sudden guys like Kyrie Irving, guys like James Harden, guys like Ben Simmons is about to mess it up for the young
generation. Are we not going to include Kevin Durant in that? How? I've been saying he asked for a trade.
Yeah, but he showed up, man. Like, that's a whole difference.
But 48 minutes against the Bucks, he played.
But so did James Harden. So did James Harden in Houston.
James Harden showed up.
No. But it was how James Harden showed up late in training camp. It's not what you do.
I'm talking about over the course of his time in
agree.
Houston, he did everything.
But we got to go to the Bucks.
Oh yeah, you don't want to argue that obvious incorrection.
Today is my favorite. All right, coming up on NBA Today, Dave, thank you so much. ESPN investigative reporter TJ Quinn has the latest on Brittany Griner's trial that started today. NBA Today will be back after this. Welcome back to the NBA Today Free Agency Special. So we began our show talking about the blockbuster Rudy Gobert trade. And when you're looking at that many picks, that's what Rudy Gobert commanded. The natural next question, Zach, is what the heck is Kevin Durant going to take to get him moved? We know that Brooklyn isn't necessarily in a rush here. They want to see the best packages. They have a little bit of leverage in that way. Fictional guys, Perk. What is the trade package that you think, that you would like to see or that you think Kevin Durant could command?
Well, real quick, right? I mean, they had to throw in a lot of picks because they didn't throw in an all-star caliber player. So I think you have to throw in a lot of picks as far as the Utah Jazz situation. But if I'm like the Atlanta Hawks and you just got Murray, I'm giving up Hunter and Collins and figuring out some other pieces, maybe picks that the Hawks may have for Kevin Durant. Why not? I'm moving Collins and Hunter. Hunter is becoming one of the better two-way players in the game today. He could possibly be a future all-star in the near future. Collins, we know what he could bring to the table. He showed us that he's capable of averaging 19 and 8 a night. He just don't fit well alongside Trae Young. But if I'm the Hawks, why not? Why not? Kevin Durant, Murray, Trae Young. Sounds good to me.
What sounds good to you, Zach?
So I thought about this more from the Nets' perspective than from the other team's perspective. And to me, I said this yesterday, I said this before Kevin Durant got traded. My first call is to the Toronto Raptors, and I'm asking for Scotty Barnes as the centerpiece of a Kevin Durant trade. And Scotty Barnes is Rookie of the Year, could be a future, I don't know, but there's no ceiling on Scotty Barnes. Could be a future 8-time All-Star or something like that. That's worth, I don't know how many draft picks that's worth, 3-4 draft picks. So I'm going Scotty Barnes, Gary Trent Jr., need a little salary cap filler, and then maybe we'll go 2 picks and 3 swaps, 3 swaps and 2 picks, and I can hear Toronto people saying we're not giving up Scotty Barnes, that's too much.
Yeah.
And guess what?
Yeah, they say that they didn't want to give up DeMar DeRozan, and they got Kawhi Leonard.
Then you don't get Kevin Durant. The sticking point for me becomes if the Nets have so much leverage and so much interest in Kevin Durant that in addition to Scotty Barnes and Gary Trent, I've got to throw in an Anunoby or something like that, and at that point, Kevin Durant's coming to a team that has now been not crippled, but sort of devastated by the bounty going out. Does he have enough there to win? So I think Trent Barnes picks is the sweet spot where he can go to Toronto and look around and say, we can win the championship with this roster. And if you can win the championship, you got to at least have a meeting about it, no matter how much you love Scotty Barnes.
What say you?
I like that a lot. I do. And I love Scotty Barnes. I'm not exactly sure what his ceiling ultimately will be offensively. I think he could be an all-league defender. And offensively, maybe he gets in that 18, 20-point range. I want more offensively. So I'm looking at New Orleans. Said it yesterday. I thought about this last night. Believe it or not, guys, I thought about this at the hotel.
Did you really?
Yeah.
You
They asked me that question.
I didn't just clock out.
They asked me that question. They go, you had 24 hours to think about it. And I'm like, I didn't know there was going to be a quiz.
You were at the
clock
anime.
out.
You were at the anime.
Yeah, I was at the
All right,
anime.
so
Weird stuff.
And here's what I thought. The more I thought about this, you got to get me a 24-year-old dude that can average 23 to 25 points a game to anchor my offense around for who knows how far out into the future. He has emerged. He's an all-star. He's a guy that ultimately has all-league capable offensive ability. In addition, you probably throw in a Larry Nash Jr., and then we start talking picks. How many picks? I don't know. 2, 3, 4, maybe every pick going forward for the rest of that organization's future. I don't know how many. Put the number on. If Gobert got 4, then let's say 3 or 4.
They got a lot of extra ones from the Lakers.
Every pick.
3 or 4 picks, but
They got the Lakers pick this year, 'cause that would be a good one.
Ingram is the guy in my crosshairs. If I'm Sean Marks, I want Brandon Ingram, and then figure out what other young player and picks.
All right, so then we have to bring in the adults in the room and say, okay, so what of this is actually possible? Front office insider Bobby Marks. Yeah, Richard, just stop.
We've already seen some of Bobby's work.
Where is Richards? Where is Richards?
Well, what I was going to do is I was
don't
going to critique everybody's. I was going to critique everybody's like package.
That's what Bobby gets to do.
Yeah,
You can do that after. We'll let Bobby go first, and then we'll let you critique.
Okay.
I actually like all three, but I picked Tim's trade right here. I think it's just clean, right? I mean, you get a player like Brandon Ingram, an all-star. I actually even threw in Herb Jones into the deal here. Ooh. Didn't need to make the money work, but a guy who can, a big wing, can defend. And now you're looking at all these picks, right? Their own, certainly the Lakers pick.
Keep scrolling, Bobby.
You keep on. I'm telling you, the touchscreen can't handle all these draft picks being traded here. Like we run out at when we hit 3. But for me, this is clean. I like the Toronto trade package. My concern with Kevin Durant moving forward is that this is going to get complicated. We're going to be adding 3 and 4 teams because, as we see, teams don't have that many draft picks, and to get these numbers up here, I don't think it's just going to be a one-on-one type deal when Durant eventually goes, does get traded.
See, I agree with you, Bobby. I like the squeaky clean type of trade. Richard, he likes it a little more dirty. So what do you like?
Yes, that is true. That is very, very true. So my thing about
No, go ahead.
Okay, so what I was trying to say before everybody wanted to crack their jokes is, Tim and I were talking, it's like you have to understand, even going back to the Minnesota deal that we were just talking about, if a team is successful, those picks drop down. Where Brooklyn and that Boston trade that we so epically talked about is that Brooklyn ended up like being trash and tanking and all their guys left, and then now all of a sudden they had no picks and they were one of the worst teams in this league. The minute you get Kevin Durant, you are a contender. That means that the picks turn into 25, 27, 29, depending on where their team ends up landing. So I'm not so much worried about the amount of picks. It's the same thing that we talked about with Minnesota. Once you get these picks, these are going to be 22, 23. You give up these picks to get Kevin Durant. You do it to get a star player, because when you add them to your team, the idea is that those picks aren't really trying to score gold in 23, 22. That is a rare occasion.
You're probably right. But that sounds exactly like what the Nets said when they traded all their picks to Houston.
But they traded him for a bunch of older players. That's the difference.
James Harden's not old.
What do you mean? When the Nets traded, what do you mean?
All their picks to Houston for James Harden. It was like, well, this can't possibly fail. They have Kyrie and KD.
Well,
you never know.
They still got Ben Simmons in return. Now, that's yet to be seen. But if he can at least return to part of his performance.
I just think we're underestimating the downside risk of this, because it seems in the moment like it's a no-brainer. You got to get that guy.
Why they're talking about billionaires making decisions? We don't focus on the downside.
But
only the upside.
You're including yourself in that billionaire
conversation. What we're not focusing on is Kevin Durant actually gave them 2 teams he wanted to go play for. So I think about Miami, South Beach. I think about Phoenix, good weather year-round, although it's hot in the summertime. I don't know if he want to go to those other destinations, right? So KD also has to say, you know what, I'm going to show up and go. 100%. Like he has that much power. So Brooklyn don't have all the leverage. They can say, oh, we're going to trade you there, but KD don't have to go there.
Well, this gentleman was the back page of the New York Post this morning.
This was disrespectful.
That is disrespectful.
I don't like that at all.
First of all, this is the New York, what is this, the Post?
The Post.
This is going to be, this is what they do. So, like, if we're going to sit up here, it's like, oh, the Post, this is their fourth most offensive thing in the last 4 days. Like, they don't care. This is like, this man has no heart. Yeah, I want to see the person that wrote that title. Let me see your resume, bro.
Just the person,
Let me see your life resume.
The person that comes up with those gets paid a lot of money.
Paid a lot of money
With that phrase.
Yeah, that
He's
is
in the
you know what?
Billionaire Richard Club.
And they won because we're sitting here talking about it.
Well, then let's talk about this. You know what his name is. Let's take a look back at Kevin Durant's career, and we're going to start with getting drafted.
Look at Mama one.
Second overall. I had to tell Jabari Smith Jr. that he wasn't first overall. By the Supersonics. It's okay. No one remembers that. In 2007, KD scored 20 points per game that year, the most by a rookie in a franchise. Team moved to Oklahoma City. He spent the next 8 seasons, won 4 scoring titles, and the real MVP. He averaged 27.4 points per game overall, the most in the Thunder Supersonics franchise history. And then, of course, left for Golden State, won 2 finals MVPs, made it to 3 finals in 3 years, scored almost 26 points per game in the regular season, up that to nearly 30 a game in the playoffs. Ooh-wee. And then his tenure ended with a torn Achilles, caused him to miss the first of 3 seasons with Brooklyn, averaged 28.7 points per game with the Nets, won just 1 playoff series, as you pointed out yesterday, Richard, in Brooklyn. You can see him there hugging his mom. So he's one of 2 players in NBA history to average 25 points per game for 3 different franchises in NBA history, along with LeBron James. And Durant now has a chance to be the only player to do that for 4 different teams. That's once a trade happens and once it is finalized. Okay. Kevin Durant era in Brooklyn. I know you guys aren't ready to call it an era.
It's not an
3
era.
years is not an era make. So the Kevin Durant time in Brooklyn.
No, don't be.
Period in Brooklyn.
It was a failure.
It didn't go as planned. I think that's fair to say, right? But he's still a walking bucket, an all-time great player. So let's say hypothetically he were to go into the Hall of Fame tomorrow, because he's a Hall of Fame hands down player. Which team would he represent?
So I had our great Kevin Pelton on my podcast last night. We had this exact discussion. He brought it up because we were talking about Durant's strange career arc or rare career arc. And he said, if you look at all the cities that Kevin Durant has played in, the one where he's possibly most beloved universally is Seattle, which doesn't even have a team. And when Kevin told me that, that was so real that it was like a gut punch to me on behalf of Kevin.
Can I remember him playing there?
But I'm saying, because Oklahoma City, hard feelings. Golden State, I mean, I don't even know if they're hard feelings. There's a lot of feelings. Brooklyn, disaster. And so when he said that, I was like, this is exactly why Kevin Durant needs to nail this move to sort of reclaim that aspect of his career. All that said, I know it was hard feelings upon his departure. I remember the cupcake stuff. I remember how poisonous it was when he came back.
Yeah.
I think time will heal a lot of that, and what he did to make basketball sustainable in Oklahoma City and put that franchise on the map, I think ultimately, if you're asking me what hat he wears at the Hall of Fame or whatever you want to say, that's the one of the 3 teams he's played for.
Rich?
Seattle, I understand. He's definitely beloved because that was the last thing they remember in Seattle.
Exactly.
And Seattle's an amazing basketball town. We need to get a team back there as soon as possible. So I see that aspect. But there's just too much time has gone by. So it's like a portion of people that remember it. But, you know, these generations, they don't remember that. These kids, they don't. But I still stand by Golden State. Like, I understand what he did. I understand what he did in Oklahoma City and making basketball sustainable. But he took another jump. Now, I understand they won before him and they won afterwards, right? Like, they won in Miami before LeBron James came, and they've been very close to winning again since he left, right? But I think when you look at, you know, what Kevin Durant did there, and really he was the reason that they became a dynasty. Yeah. Right? Because even Draymond Green on his podcast said, or on JJ Redick's podcast said, I don't think that we win the next year without Kevin Durant. So then all this dynasty talk kind of gets shut down. Not saying that they wouldn't have won another championship, because they've proven that they will. But ultimately, I think his time in Golden State is the time that really pushed him to another level. And I just think part of the reason why there was tension there is because he didn't feel that another level of love. When LeBron James won that title in Cleveland, all of the love that was showered on him. He just didn't feel that love. He felt like he had to go do it someplace else, but his time in Golden State was the most special point.
Well, and Golden State has said already that they would retire his jersey. Perk?
You know what? My grandpa used to say a stripes on the zebra never change. And what KD has shown us, a stripes on the zebra.
A tiger.
No,
well, they both have stripes.
Never change, okay?
Zebra to zebra or the same zebra?
Can we let him?
Yeah, go ahead.
And what I've come to realize is that Kevin Durant don't care about being loved.
No.
And he shouldn't care. So why should we care which fan base actually love Kevin Durant?
Because we got 3 hours of talk.
Because at the end of the day, he's going down in the Hall of Fame.
Facts.
It don't matter if none of those teams retire his jersey. What matters the most is that he's going into the Hall of Fame. So how about not being loved? How about just being the villain? How about being the bad guy your entire career? You still gonna respect his greatness. Now that's what it comes down to. Forget being loved. Long as they show him the respect, nobody cares about being loved. And then on top of that, I look at a guy that I played with by the name of Ray Allen. He played for Boston. He played for Seattle. He played for Milwaukee. He played for Miami. Is his jersey hanging up anywhere?
I got an easy answer.
He's in the Hall of Fame.
When they put this question to me, I had the easiest answer. The hat he's going to wear when he goes to the Hall of Fame, or the jersey, however you want to look at it, he hasn't put on yet. It's going to be the next stop. Because all these places, I don't think he's going to necessarily be comfortable. Oklahoma City, for me, is clearly the one that would be the one. If he was going to end his career, say, in Brooklyn and not win, it would be the Thunder. That's where he won his MVP. He poured his heart and soul into getting to that team to the finals. That was his team.
Yeah.
Golden State never felt like his team. We all concur. I think he was the best player on those teams that won titles. It never felt like his. I think it was less fulfilling to him by the end of that second one than he ever thought it would be, because it didn't feel that way to him. Now, he checked off certain things on his resume he had to do. He won finals MVPs, he did all that. And then they won before and they won after. So that, to me, is not going to be something that he's going to go down that road. Seattle, I think, just 1 year is not going to do it. Brooklyn, obviously, is not going to be it. I think it's the next stop. He's got 4 years on a deal. If he goes to one of these franchises that hasn't won recently or at all, and he's the guy that drives that, and it feels like his team, that's the jersey he's going to wear in the Hall of Fame.
That makes sense to me. I think we have these, particularly around Kevin Durant, these sort of outsized conversations about legacy. At the end of the day, he is one of the greatest players ever to step foot on a basketball court. And so to me, we have all these sort of like grand sweeping, well, Kevin Durant's legacy and what's this going to mean? I even, sort of posed the question begrudgingly yesterday of, where is this going to? At the end of the day, I mean, winning cures all. And you look at like LeBron, right? When he went down to South Beach, he was ridiculed so much for that decision. But he won in Cleveland, and it kind of all went away. So all of this is sort of cyclical and a little bit ridiculous. Because at the end of the day, greatness, it surpasses all. Like that's kind of it.
Yeah, but we ain't gonna lay off of him. He still got more to prove if he want to keep climbing in those ranks.
Fair enough. Well, your ranks are all over the place. Coming up, we are going to take a look at the options for